Have you ever witnessed someone quietly wiping away tears, believing no one was watching? If that moment stirs your heart, please hit like on this video and subscribe to 30 Millionaire Stories. Today we share a story without loud fanfare, without clamoring for attention. It's about a single mother, a kitchen filled with the scent of vanilla, and a millionaire who saw what no one else did. Stay with us until the end, because those who give the most are often the ones long forgotten. Take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly connect with what I'm sharing here. And leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always a joy to see someone joining us from everywhere across the globe. Honey and Flour Bakery sat quietly against its whitewashed brick walls, exuding warmth and simplicity. The soft golden light from handcrafted lanterns washed over the worn tile floor, making every corner feel like an embrace. The scent of cinnamon, the aroma of caramelizing sugar, and the gentle hum of the oven mingled together. They reminded everyone that fresh pastries were emerging, radiating heat and comfort. This place had thrived for more than 30 years, not because of flashy showmanship, but because of the baker's heart. Lila Carter, 34, was its very soul. As a single mother, she rose before dawn, when the city still slept, to begin her tireless routine, kneading dough, filling pastries, timing the ovens, and arranging each perfectly baked treat on the shelves. Her hands moved in a practiced dance, yet occasionally her eyes would betray her. Growing pale with worry over medical bills, her young son's innocent questions, and her mother's declining health. Each morning, Ethan, her 8-year-old, would tiptoe into the bakery, eyes following the cinnamon rolls, croissants, and apple tarts as they emerged from the oven. He'd ask softly, "Mom, how many pastries have we sold today?" Lila would smile and reply quietly, "We'll count them together after closing, sweetheart." But in her heart, that tally meant more than pastries. It counted small dreams and the hopes of her family. When the clock struck 9, the door creaked open in welcome. Regulars and newcomers alike were drawn in by the rich aroma of baking. They waited for Lila's service, and she greeted each one with sincere warmth. Occasionally, she'd pause mid-dough knead, her throat tightening at the thought of the elderly mother waiting in a small hospital hallway chair, anxiously awaiting test results. One Wednesday afternoon, after every shop light had come on, the rain fell softly outside. No birds singing, no wind rattling the windows. Under the gentle glow, William Bill Hargrove arrived. At 62, his figure was slightly rounded, and he wore a simple tweed coat with well-worn leather shoes. Slinging a worn leather satchel at his side, he chose a secluded table, set down his old briefcase, and leisurely poured himself hot tea. Bill timed his visit perfectly. He wanted to feel the bakery's quiet bustle. No one knew he was a self-made millionaire, a widowed father who had learned, after his wife's early passing, to cherish silent moments and simple sounds. The oven's soft sigh, customers' whispered conversations, and the faint jingle of the doorbell with each arrival. Lila brought him a buttery croissant, its rich aroma filling the air, its crust crisp beneath her careful hand. She nodded and murmured, "Please enjoy. It's just out of the oven." Bill lifted the pastry, watching each layer of butter melt in his mouth. He nodded in appreciation, then looked at Lila. "Thank you. It's wonderful." In that instant, Lila's smile brightened, an ember of warmth in the rush of life. Then Bill placed a neatly folded envelope on the counter. Surprised, she asked softly, "What is this?" He answered slowly, "I want to help you and Ethan through this difficult time." Lila's hand trembled as she took the envelope. Inside was enough money to cover her mother's hospital bills and secure Ethan's future. Ethan, hiding behind the pastry counter, poked his head out and asked, "Sir, is my mom going to be okay?" Bill smiled warmly and met the boy's gaze. "Your mom will be fine, young man." In that moment, Lila's heart burst. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She choked out a "thank you" from the bottom of my heart. Amid the bakery's cozy hush, familiar shapes and gentle sounds weaving together, Lila and Ethan found new faith. Honey and Flour wasn't just a place to bake. It was a home of kindness and hope, where each pastry carried a message of love and the power of community. Lila moved between the tables with the practiced rhythm of a dancer. Her hair was tied neatly atop her head, the pale blue apron cinched tightly around her waist, faintly scented with flour and vanilla. She had stood there for more than 10 hours, yet never allowed herself a single pause. Her smile greeted each guest, friendly, warm, but few knew that beneath it lay an invisible fatigue. Lila's eyes, rimmed in red like the evidence of a sleepless night, flicked across every customer's face, fighting to maintain her professional composure. Bill sat in the corner of the bakery, where the lantern light filtered softly through the window but did not fall directly on him. He watched Lila quietly, the newspaper on his table left unopened. Instead, he focused on her smallest gestures, how she leaned in to listen when a child described the cupcake he had been wishing for, how she bent low to place a steaming cup of coffee before an elderly patron, and how she offered a gentle, almost shy smile. Each movement, though slight, was laden with resilience. Most people overlook a passing sigh or the furrow between tired brows. Bill did not. He noticed when Lila set down a cup of tea before him, her hand trembled for a brief moment, like a small crack revealing the strength she hid beneath. She tried to conceal it, but his gaze was unwavering. Bill understood. If even a seasoned server like her could not mask that strain, then the burden inside must be 100 times greater than anything visible. As the bakery reached its bustling peak, Bill's tea had grown cold, yet he did not lift the cup. The air teemed with conversation, the oven's soft whir, and the bell's gentle chime with each new arrival. Then Lila slipped through the back door marked "Staff Only." Bill neither planned nor hesitated. He rose and followed, like a silent presence backstage. The door opened and Bill heard a stifled sob, so faint it might have been drowned out by the clamor beyond. There sat Lila, slumped on a plastic chair, back against the brick wall. Her shoulders shook in uneven spasms. Her apron, dusted with flour and streaked with dried coffee, bore testament to her relentless labor. She buried her face in her hands as if to hide the tears streaming down. Bill stepped forward, yet kept a respectful distance. He inhaled deeply, then spoke softly, as to a friend. "Are you all right, Lila?" His voice rang in her ear, shattering the barrier she had erected. Lila startled. A whirlwind of thoughts, medical bills, her mother's mounting expenses, the promise to give Ethan a better life, surged through her mind. She lifted her head, tears glistening on her lashes. Her eyes were red, her lips trembling. I'm sorry." She bowed her gaze as though ashamed of her vulnerability, but Bill gently raised her chin, his expression steady and resolute. "There's nothing to apologize for. Everyone has moments of breaking. Only by sharing our burdens can we find true strength." In that hushed instant, the kitchen clock tapped out its rhythm, reminding them of the whirlwind waiting outside. Lila swallowed her tears, her eyes gradually steadying. "I've tried, I've tried for my son, for my mother, but some days I just can't hide my worry. Her voice cracked, trembling like a fraying rope. Bill sat beside her, pivoted a small folding table between them, and patted her shoulder with care. Then he held out an envelope. Here. I've arranged enough to cover all hospital bills and living expenses for you and your son for the next few months. I'm not doing this for recognition. I once felt the helplessness of being unable to help my own family. I don't want you to endure that. Lila stared at the envelope, her heart pounding. Ethan waited in the small front room, his innocent eyes a reminder of her constant worry. Suddenly, a flicker of hope ignited. A vision of a sustainable bakery, a bright future for her son, a smile untouched by sorrow. Tears fell again, but this time in gratitude. She closed her eyes. Her voice trembled. You didn't have to do this. Bill offered a gentle smile. Someone helped me when I needed it. Now I'm just returning the kindness. Lila drew in a deep breath, steadying herself. She folded the envelope and pressed it to her chest. Thank you. So very much. Outside, the bell continued its steady chime. Lila and Bill bowed their heads in that small, warm space. That genuine moment, vulnerability shared, hearts opened, erased every boundary between Millionaire and Baker. Honey and Flour was no longer just a bakery. It had become the birthplace of hope and goodwill. Bill did not move closer. He knew that moment belonged to her. Not for interference, nor for consolation. More than anyone, he understood the value of privacy. Many nights he had lain awake in the dark, drying the silent tears he shed once his child was asleep, only to rise again at dawn with steadfast resolve. Now, he did not wish to invade the small woman's space. He returned to his table in the corner, partly hidden behind a shelf of faux flowers. His tea sat cold. The newspaper lay untouched. The bakery around him buzzed as always, the oven's sharp hum, dough being sliced with a rhythmic click, soft murmurs of conversation. Yet in Bill's mind, only one image remained. Lila, the 34-year-old baker, gritting her teeth to stand tall despite the tide of exhaustion that threatened to overwhelm her. 15 minutes passed before Lila re-emerged at the counter, composed as though she had never broken down. Her hair was still neatly tied, her pale blue apron spotless. She offered her welcoming smile, still warm and genuine, though her eyes remained rimmed with red. Bill saw the fine lines at the corners of her eyes and how she paused occasionally to brush her forehead, the single gesture speaking volumes of quiet burden. When Lila brought his bill, Bill gently placed a $100 bill on the plate beside his teapot. The total came to only $8. She paused, eyes widening, then lifted the bill to examine it. Beneath the crisp note lay a pristine business card bearing William Hargrove, Hargrove Ventures, and a brief inscription. If you ever want another path, I believe I can help. Lila hesitated, fingers trembling as she clutched the card. Inside her mind, a whirlwind of thoughts erupted. Ethan's questions about their future, her mother's hospital bed, the mounting medical bills. She bit her lip, restored her professional composure, and offered a quiet, "Thank you, sir." Bill nodded, said nothing further, simply offered a caring smile and donned his coat. The door's chime rang lightly behind him, like the closing note of a song. He did not expect her to reach out, but he had assuredly left a silent door ajar. Lila stood still, watching his figure fade. Her heart pounded. She lowered her gaze to the card in her hand, tracing the neat script with her fingertip, as if to imprint every curve of ink. The stranger had given more than surplus payment. He had given her belief that she was not alone. Behind the counter, Ethan peeked from the shadows, curious eyes fixed on his mother. He tiptoed forward and whispered, "Mom, what does another path mean?" Lila bent down, wrapped him in an embrace, and spoke softly. "It's just an invitation, sweetheart. A chance to think about our future." Outside, hurried footsteps sounded, and the oven continued its humble melody. Lila remained in her familiar bakery, but now her heart brimmed with hope. She lifted the business card to her nose, inhaling its faint scent of vanilla and flour, a reminder to stay strong. She wondered softly, "Do I have the courage?" Deep within her, a small dream pressed forward to rebuild her bakery, care for her mother, give Ethan a stable life. The card lay snug in her palm, like a cornerstone beneath those hopes. Gently, she replaced the card on the wooden counter. Then she smiled at the next customer, though her eyes now shone brightly. Each gesture, each greeting remained as sincere as ever, but inside, her belief had transformed. The weight she carried, medical bills, family worries, though still present, no longer threatened to crush her heart. Night fell, and the bakery emptied. The warm lantern light spilled across the worn tiles. Lila sank onto a stool, massaging her tired arms, her gaze drifting to the small window. There, the business card shimmered like a beacon in the dark. She offered a faint smile and whispered to herself, "Starting a new path? Why not?" Finally, Lila rose, pressed the card against her chest, and walked slowly toward the door, the night breeze gently brushing her face. Bill's promise echoed in her ear, a promise of an open door for those who fight quietly. And in that moment, her spirit felt fully rekindled, believing that after the longest nights of struggle, there would always be a hand ready to lift her from the shadows. Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or sip some water, then continue listening for the surprises ahead. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always exciting to see someone joining us from every corner of the globe. Comment 1 if you enjoyed this story, so we can keep bringing you more wonderful tales. 4 days later, as the city lay hushed under the night sky, Bill's phone chimed twice. Click, click. An unfamiliar number appeared, but he did not hesitate to answer. A voice trembled on the other end, warm though shaky. It was Lila. She offered her thanks, not only for the $100 bill that had banished her sleepless nights spent tallying medical bills, but also for the moment it gave her, the moment she realized she was not invisible. She stammered, You made me feel worth something." Bill remained silent, listening intently. In his calm, resonant tone, he invited her to the Hargrove Foundation office, a place he had painstakingly built to uplift weary souls like hers, especially single mothers. The next morning, Lila clutched her small bag and walked slowly along the empty street. Her heart pounded with anticipation. Streetlights cast a soft glow, and her watch read exactly 8:15. She paused before a low red brick building nestled among trees, not towering but exuding warmth. On its facade, the words Hargrove Foundation were painted in elegant script beneath a symbol of hands supporting a heart. Lila drew a deep breath, fighting back a tear, the tear of hope. Inside, a spacious reception area spread across pale gray carpet. Photographs adorned the walls, capturing moments of children laughing in play areas, women receiving certificates, families gathered for outdoor picnics. By the windows stood a neat bookshelf of wooden shelves, lined with career guides and books on life skills. Everything spoke of warmth and the dignity every person deserved. Bill appeared, not in the smart suit he'd worn at the bakery, but in a gray sweater and casual khakis. He smiled and greeted her. "Good morning, Lila. Thank you for coming." His voice was gentle yet carried pride. Lila offered a slight bow, striving for composure, though her palms felt warm from the morning air. He led her into a small conference room, where a simple wooden table sat between two cushioned chairs. On the table, a cup of mint tea sent up wisps of steam. Bill placed a saucer beneath it and poured her tea. Lila blinked, inhaling the fresh mint aroma, allowing her anxiety to ease. Sunlight filtered through white curtains, tracing patterns on the wood floor. Bill began to speak of the Hargrove Foundation. His eyes lit up as he described its mission. "We aim to help people like you, resilient hearts, though sometimes battered by life's storms. Through vocational training, job placement, and family support, we believe everyone can reclaim their dignity." His words ignited a flame of hope in Lila's chest. Each syllable resonated in the stillness around her. Then he said, "I'd like to invite you to become a community coordinator." It was not a role requiring degrees, but one demanding empathy and a warm heart. Lila nearly gasped at the term community coordinator. It conjured images of desk work, meetings, and files. She had never thought herself qualified. She shook her head, her voice quavering. "Sir, I've never worked in an office. I only know how to bake." Bill smiled, trust shining in his eyes. "Credentials can't match lived experience. The storms you've weathered are proof stronger than any certificate." He showed her a folder on the table, a 3-month trial contract, a living wage for her and her son, and arrangements for Ethan's after-school pickup. The first page bore the Foundation's logo. The next detailed the training schedule and introductions to her future colleagues. Gently, Lila touched the paper. Her heart fluttered. She sat quietly, eyes fixed on the contract as the world around her seemed to slow. In bold letters, the words read, "We are committed to standing by you." It was more than a promise. It was a new path, one she had once feared to imagine. She recalled long nights by the old oven and Ethan's innocent face as he asked, "Why does no one ever help us?" Now she saw the answer. She need not walk alone. A single tear fell, this one different. A tear of gratitude. Lila drew in a deep breath, fighting to steady her emotions as she searched for Bill's face. He beamed encouragement, then extended a pen. "If you agree, please sign here." Her hand shook as she accepted the pen and bent over the contract. The nibby touched paper, the ink flowing into her signature, pen on parchment, heartbeat racing, then a soft exhale of relief. She set the pen down, looked up at Bill, voice choked. "Thank you. I will do my best." Bill nodded, his eyes alight with joy. "I believe in you." Lila smiled, feeling her heart expand for the first time. Moments later, they walked into the reception area, where Ethan sat waiting by the door. He bounded forward and hugged his mother, eyes shining. "Mom, you signed the contract? Can I take extra classes now?" Lila stroked his hair gently. "Yes, sweetheart, I have a new job, and I'll have time to take you wherever you need." Their laughter echoed warmly through the Foundation's halls. Stepping out of the red brick building, Lila gazed into the blue sky. The world seemed as open as her own spirit. Today's door had closed, but another had swung wide, one of hope, shared strength, and a path she had never dared to dream. In her hand, the crisp contract stood as proof that sometimes all it takes is one opportunity for life to change completely. She sat quietly, eyes fixed on the contract as the world around her seemed to slow. In bold letters, the words read, "We are committed to standing by you." It was more than a promise. It was a new path, one she had once feared to imagine. She recalled long nights by the old oven and Ethan's innocent face as he asked, "Why does no one ever help us?" Now she saw the answer. She need not walk alone. A single tear fell, this one different, a tear of gratitude. Lila drew in a deep breath, fighting to steady her emotions as she searched for Bill's face. He beamed encouragement, then extended a pen. "If you agree, please sign here." Her hand shook as she accepted the pen and bent over the contract. The nib touched paper, the ink flowing into her signature. Pen on parchment, heartbeat racing, then a soft exhale of relief. She set the pen down, looked up at Bill, voice choked. "Thank you. I will do my best." Bill nodded, his eyes alight with joy. "I believe in you." Lila smiled, feeling her heart expand for the first time. Moments later, they walked into the reception area where Ethan sat waiting by the door. He bounded forward and hugged his mother, eyes shining. "Mom, you signed the contract? Can I take extra classes now?" Lila stroked his hair gently. "Yes, sweetheart. I have a new job, and I'll have time to take you wherever you need." Their laughter echoed warmly through the foundation's halls. Stepping out of the red brick building, Lila gazed into the blue sky. The world seemed as open as her own spirit. Today's door had closed, but another had swung wide, one of hope, shared strength, and a path she had never dared to dream. In her hand, the crisp contract stood as proof that sometimes all it takes is one opportunity for life to change completely. 3 months have passed since Lila left the counter at Honey and Flower. Instead, she now serves as a community coordinator at the Hargrove Foundation. Her modest office sits in a sunlit red brick building, where large windows pour in warm morning rays. She's grown accustomed to the desk, the incoming calls, and the mountain of case files awaiting her attention. Each file represents a life tucked away behind numbers, and Lila's task is to pull those lives from the shadows. Each morning, Lila arrives in flats, her tote bag heavy with documents. She swipes her key card, opens her private office door, and sets out a tray of pens, her notebook, and a brand new laptop. Sitting down, she exhales in one long breath, equal parts fatigue and determination. Today's work begins with Mrs. Thompson's family, a widow with 2 fatherless children. Lila listens to every detail, the rent payments, the youngest child's hospital bills, the sleepless nights when storms ravaged their home. She records each fact in neat handwriting, her gaze never leaving the storyteller. Then she connects them with the Housing Assistance Program. Mrs. Thompson's grateful, crooked-toothed smile lights a new spark in Lila's heart. Lunchtime grants her a rare moment to unwind. Lila enters the foundation's shared dining room, where colleagues exchange friendly greetings. Before her lies the homemade lunch she packed, a tuna mayo sandwich, a few cool cucumber slices, and a cookie. Ethan baked himself. She lifts the lid, inhales the creamy, briny scent of tuna mixed with mayo, and her heart stirs when she spots the neatly folded note beside her meal. In her 8-year-old son's scrawl reads, "Mom, you're my superhero. I love you." Beneath it, Ethan's drawing shows mother and son standing beneath a magnolia tree, hand in hand, petals dancing in a gentle breeze, the sun blooming above them. Lila allows herself a small smile. Warmth floods her chest. Tears brim, though not from exhaustion. These are tears of hope. For a moment, she sets the lunchbox down and wipes her cheek. All her worries, all her burdens recede. She tells herself, "I can do this." Through the window, the magnolia trees still bloom in silence, their green leaves and white flowers overlapping to form a tranquil tableau. A colleague's footsteps echo, and Lila waves. The colleague returns her smile before stepping outside. The dining room hums with whispered conversations and the soft clink of dishes. Just as she tucks the love note into her bag, her phone buzzes. It's a message from Bill. "How are you today, Lila?" She stifles a tired sigh and types quickly. "Peaceful. Thank you, sir." She hits send. The screen flicks to read. Lila smiles, as though discovering an invisible anchor. For the first time in years, she is not merely surviving the race against time and bills. She is living, breathing, and feeling her own worth. That afternoon, she returns to her desk, where more cases await. A 5-year-old girl needing school supplies, a young couple laid off by the pandemic. Each story evokes memories of her own struggles, endless nights, trudging through mountain-high medical bills, and the ache in her heart when she thought of Ethan. But now her perspective has shifted. She is not alone. Behind her stands the Hargrove Foundation, Bill and a compassionate team ready to lend a hand. She does more than distribute material aid. She offers people faith in themselves, that they deserve support, that their lives can change. At day's end, as the sun sets, the office empties. Lila gathers her files, powers down her computer, and wipes her desk clean. She arranges her workspace neatly and tucks her notebook into a drawer. Before leaving, she pauses in the dining room to pick up the empty lunchbox, the trace of a loving midday ritual. She retrieves Ethan's note once more, holding it reverently. On the way home, she stops at a stationery shop, buying new pens and a sturdy, spiral-bound notebook to record the next chapters of these lives. Her heart flutters. Across town, Ethan waits, eyes bright with anticipation for his mother's stories. What will she tell him today? What surprise will he offer her in return? Lost in thought, she picks up her pace. At home that night, Lila locks the door and sets the empty lunchbox on the table. Ethan rushes to her and throws his arms around her. "How was your day, Mom?" She meets his gaze, her smile warm. Mom had a wonderful day. That's all she needs to say. His eyes light up. Lila kneels, looking straight into his. "How many more pictures shall we draw together, Ethan?" He beams. "So many." Lila hugs him as though cradling the whole world. She closes her eyes, listening to the steady beat of his small heart against her ear. In that moment, she knows this truth. Sometimes, all it takes is one opportunity, one act of encouragement, and a simple scrawled note to help us reclaim ourselves, and the strength to live fully. And in that peaceful instant, Lila is not just surviving, she is truly living, with belief, hope, and a heart overflowing with compassion. Lila's story isn't about a miracle or a hero. It speaks of the quiet strength of people like her, those who bear burdens unseen by the world, yet still choose kindness, still rise each day. And it speaks of people like Bill, who help not for fame, but because they understand that a single moment of being seen can change everything. We walk past people like Lila every day. Servers who smile even though their hands tremble. Co-workers who say, "I'm fine," while their eyes tell another story. They do not wave a white flag. They do not ask for help because they have learned to survive on their own. But if we pause, if we look more closely, we can see them. And sometimes, just a small act, a kind word, an opportunity, a moment of recognition is enough to open a new path. So the next time you meet someone who seems to be holding everything together, stop for a moment. You don't need to fix their life. Just let them know you see them. It may be the first time in a long while that they feel they're not invisible. Lila did not cry because she was weak. She cried because she had been strong for too long, and at last, someone noticed. Please like and subscribe to 30 Millionaire Stories to discover more tales of quiet kindness. In the comments, share. When was the last time you noticed someone silently carrying a burden? And what did you do to let them know you saw them? Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always exciting to see someone joining us from every corner of the globe. Comment 1 if you enjoyed this story so we can bring you more wonderful tales.